Speaker. I'd like to ask the member for the Communications and Utilities Regulatory Authority whether the option of a social tariff for internet access is being considered.
Well, the member for the Communications and Utilities Regulatory Authority to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The authority would be happy to investigate the introduction of a social tariff. However, this decision cannot be made by the authority in isolation. Such issues are matter of public policy, and while the authority plays its part in implementing such policies, they must come from tools of government. If affordability is a barrier to some people accessing the internet, there are further issues that must be considered, such as identifying the individuals who are finding internet access to be unaffordable and designing a suitable mechanism that best suits those individuals' needs. For this reason, social tariffs tend to be linked to the welfare system. Designing a suitable social tariff therefore requires a collaborative approach from multiple parties in order to draw on the relevant expertise from each, and is not something that the authority can or should do in isolation. Mr. Speaker, it should be acknowledged upfront that social tariffs come at a cost, and there would have to be a decision made about who funds that cost. It must either be funded by industry, who would ultimately pass it to customers in one form or another, or by the taxpayer. It is therefore important to get it right, as a social tariff that is available to a very wide group of people would be costly and won't achieve its aims because it will simply result in some customers subsidising others. In the past, there have been discussions around the need for a social tariff for the Isle of Man, and the authority would commit to working with government in the development of a social tariff, if it was deemed to be appropriate for public policy.
So, any questions for us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Member for Corlett. In terms of the regulator's approach, you said this needs to be set in motion by Tynwald, but in terms of the background research, in terms of concerns being raised, have you actually been made aware that there is a problem, that there are alternatives on the adjacent island, that solutions could be put in place? Is that something that has been discussed, or is it something that you're simply waiting for us to signal the next stage? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, debt services has not raised any concerns with the authority about communication charges and in any way contributing to individual debt, but the authority is always open to working with other departments. What's available on the adjacent isle? The authority does keep up to date on regulatory developments in other jurisdictions, and it's clear that there's no common approach. In the UK, there are tariffs in place. However, it should be noted that Ofcom has only recently, in 2020, been given specific powers under the Communications Act in 2003 to deal with social tariffs. There are no equivalent provisions on the Isle of Man. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the member of the Regulatory Authority agree with me that social tariffs can actually be a very blunt tool? They only, particularly looking to the adjacent isle, in fact, they only tend to capture people on certain benefits and therefore actually create cliff edges, and they don't necessarily capture those who actually are most in need, which can sometimes be those outside the benefit system but actually still on low incomes.
Let's reply.